dogs in the yard might need a guard. Every loss taken to heart. Me first, that cannot be. Must be these underdog episodes, see? Feeling much better, so suddenly under the Monica G. Crafted at night while all of them sleep. I won't look a fool, taking this tool, defeating the opposition around me. No, I'm not sorry. Yes, I'm taking this knowledge and pride. Just barking no harm, don't be startled. Yes, I'm taking the title, and it's so vital. Thanks for the ride, I'll never be idle. Turn up the dial, it's about to get wild, and the points gon' pile up.
Dynasty Underdog right down, up at the day and the night now. Easy as flying a kite now. Come take a look at it right now. Dynasty Underdog right down, up at the day and the night now. Easy as flying a kite now. Come take a look at it right now.
Everyone, welcome to episode 148 of Dynasty Underdog. I'm your host, Gerard Dawkins. Joined with me tonight, Billy Beeman, Josh Goldberg. Welcome back. How's it going?
Good, man.
Hey,
How are you?
Doing good.
Oh boy, we're off the rails already.
We're off.
Wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, doing good. Again, Thursdays are my Fridays, so it's always a good thing.
Nice.
Love that.
Well, let's hop into some news and some nonsense. So Carson Wentz exists, apparently. He's still out there. He was at Bucks training camp. And the news is that he's holding out for the right spot. He still wants to play, and he's okay being a backup. Like, he says he's fine with that now. It's like, bro, you've been a backup for like years. You just been in the starting role.
I think he's in the best possible spot he could be in for wanting to compete and play this season. I mean, look at who the Bucks have right now: Kyle Trask or Mayfield. If there's going to be a competition where he could possibly come out ahead, it would be there. And especially working with Gruden and Gruden working with Tampa Bay on the side, I just think it's a natural connection.
Yeah, we got this question in the Discord if Wentz would ever play again, right? If he would ever get on the field again. And I mean, I guess, yeah, this is the place to do it. That's for sure. But I don't see it. I think they kind of have their sights set on Baker. I mean, honestly, maybe you can't see it. You've seen the videos. They've been terrible. So maybe he can get on the field. This would be the place to do it. I just don't really believe in it, and I don't want any part of it. That's for sure. But yeah, he should know. It's backup time.
I agree with Josh, though. I think if there's anywhere that he has a shot of getting a starting job, right, or being the backup in hopes that the starter gets pulled, then Tampa Bay's a pretty good spot. But I mean, so was Washington, and that didn't really work out very well for him either. So
True.
All right, so yeah, this is like week 2 of D-Hop watch. D-Hopping, all over D-Hopping. Houston D-Hop got an offer apparently from Tennessee. D-Hop in New England. I just wanted them signed so we don't have to talk about it anymore. Well, I guess we'd have to talk about it one more time, wouldn't we?
A lot of New England news today on this episode. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, I mean, New England would be a great landing spot for him, right? Like, target share wise, for fantasy production wise, like, he's going to get the volume that you kind of need DeAndre Hopkins at this point in his career to get. So it'd be pretty good. They have the money to pay him. They probably should pay him, get Mac a weapon, see if they can actually develop this quarterback, give him somebody that he can rely on. So yeah, it does all make sense for sure. And as a Patriots fan, you can't dislike it. So for me, yeah, it kind of makes sense. I like it. I don't think Tennessee makes a lot of sense. I don't think New England should let him get out the door, because if they do, I think it's likely that he finds another suitor that maybe just a better team with a better quarterback, just the whole 9 yards. So yeah, this would be the spot and the time to kind of snatch him up.
Yep. All right. Next one. J.K. Dobbins. He wasn't at non-mandatory training camp, but he's been there. He's been in the building, but he says he's quote unquote like holding in. He's going to be there and he's going to participate, but he's making it very well known that he wants a contract. This is the last year of his contract, and he wants to hold out for some money. And we all know how this kind of goes for these players. So good luck. Yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah, well, he's getting. Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say he wants a contract as badly as he wants new knees.
Oh.
Wow, shots.
Oh, come on.
Shots, damn. He's getting paid like $1 million this year. Like it's you understand why his knees are busted up. He's due for a contract soon anyway, and he knows that he's not going to get paid if he gets injured again. So he wants his money. It makes sense, but yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen. I see them talking a lot about we want him out there. I saw Monken say, "Can you just run a quick route for us? Just run down the sideline or something." Like they want him out there bad, so they might find some middle ground. But yeah, with the injury concerns, it's interesting. I don't think it's anything to worry about, and you can't really take advantage of it. I don't think it's going to hurt his dynasty value.
No.
And they have a really high paid running back on that team, Lamar Jackson. So I don't know if they want to allocate all that money.
These guys.
I'm joking. I think Lamar's a really good passer, but the joke was there.
Could you say it with a straight face though?
A lot of people don't. I mean, Shane Swags is like a big Lamar hater. He thinks he's had only one good season, and his days are behind him. So there's haters out there.
Yeah, maybe. I still want him on my teams. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Would you pay a top 3 pick next year and a 26 first for him?
Yeah, I think he's worth that.
Okay.
Hopefully, I don't have
deal I saw get. Sorry, it's a deal I saw get done in the DFF Discord. So
yeah, hopefully, I don't have a top 3 pick next year though.
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Let's not have to deal with this situation. How about that?
Yeah, in console wars, I end up with the 103. I'm like, how? And I realized that I have Mac Jones and Dak Prescott as my quarterbacks, and Dak didn't play for like 7 games, so that'll do it.
That's how.
But my team's a little rough too. But all right. So Pat Freiermuth on new rookie Darnell Washington tight end there. He says, "quote unquote," he's putting it all together the past 2 days. He's looked really good. He was saying in the quotes that if he was going to grade his performance, that it'd be like a B-. But he was giving Washington some praise. I assume you guys are probably like me and probably most of the market when maybe a little bit higher on Washington before we saw where he ended up.
Mm-hmm.
Does this make you any more willing to stash him? I mean, what, Freiermuth will be on his last year of his contract next year?
No, this is his 3rd year, I believe.
So next year, his 4th year.
Yes, 4th year, and then I'll be a free agent. Yeah, but I don't think. I mean, Darnell Washington is not playing the same role as Pat Freiermuth, in my opinion. He's going to be playing much more of an inline, like blocking tight end kind of role where, I mean, Freiermuth can do that too, but he is also going to be split into the slot, or, he's going to be breaking off for a lot more routes, running a lot more routes, no matter what. Washington is going to be a lot more of like a goal line type threat in terms of fantasy production or offensive production. So, like, looking at it, is Freiermuth going to be gone at some point? I would imagine they're going to try to keep Freiermuth around, but even so, I don't think that Washington would like slide into that kind of role. Maybe I'm wrong on the guy. I just don't really see him as a very fluid player who can like long-term evade defenders and be a real offensive threat throughout the entire field. I just don't really see it.
I mean, the other thing is Freiermuth's concussion history. He's very susceptible to them. So it is, I mean, in my opinion, it's a good idea to stash him if you get him cheap enough, but I would not be paying top dollar for him by any means.
He's been going in the 4th rounds or undrafted in some leagues. So Washington is for sure a much cheaper asset than he was going pre-draft, where it was like in the 2nd round, early 3rd.
That's what I figured. I mean, I didn't done like a ton of rookie drafts much later than like a week after the draft, so I haven't really seen where that's gone. But I just assumed that kind of the shine is worn off a little bit on him. So
certainly has, yeah.
All right, this one from a beat writer for the Patriots. It's funny we were joking about this because I think Mike Gesicki's like a really good pass catcher. Like I think he might be one of the best ones on that team, along with Hunter Henry. So the quote is, "The duo of Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki shared the field the majority of the time. They were favorite target of Mac Jones. As Gesicki impressed with his quickness as a natural pass catcher, early indications point to the 2 tight end package being a large part of that new scheme." Are you buying it yet, Billy?
I'm definitely coming around a bit. I'm coming around a bit on. Yeah. I'm coming around a bit on the fact that Gesicki could be the guy. that you want there, and that it might not be so much of a split in terms of fantasy production, or that you will get enough from Gesicki in terms of maybe something closer to like a 60 to 80 catch, 800 yard, couple touchdown season, which would obviously be pretty useful, right, for fantasy purposes. That said, I think you saw a lot of 2 tight end packages because Juju wasn't out there. Like, he's injured. I think maybe Tyquan wasn't out there. I think we had basically our 2 top pass catchers otherwise not out there. So, like, probably a good opportunity to check out the 12 personnel, throw both of the tight ends out there, see what's happening. But Gesicki, like, everything I am hearing from guys who I trust a bit in the media there is that Gesicki looks incredible and that he looks fluid. And, I mean, Bill Belichick has talked to the entire career of Gesicki how much he likes the guy. So, yeah, if you're going to buy in, that's probably the one you buy into. And there's a lot of targets to go around and not much talent there. So I guess I'm getting closer to buying in, but I see the memes of like Gronk and Hernandez and please, like, spare me.
I wasn't gonna go there this time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's
Belichick wants to bring back that the golden age.
Something like it.
Something like it. All right, this one is out of Cowboys training camp. Rookie Luke Schoonmaker should also factor in here, but he didn't do much during the offseason because of a foot issue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to take note of. Jake Ferguson started 8 games last season and could start twice as many in 2023. I would also like to point out that Peyton Hendershot is there. There's a chance, I know that Schoonmaker was drafted in a second, so just by draft capital alone, you'd think they would want to roll him out there over Ferguson and Hendershot. But I mean, both those two rookies last year, they were fine. Like, they were a good complement to Schultz, with Schultz being gone. Like,
mm-hmm.
I could see Ferguson, outperforming Shoemaker this year. It wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, especially with the plantar fasciitis. I think that's what he's dealing with. Definitely that. I saw George Kittle giving Ferguson a shout out too. I'm sure they've done some work at like the tight end camp and stuff, so they get a look at him. I'm not saying that he's like anything like that, but he was saying that he might be a guy who could break out. I forgot what video I saw him doing that in, but either way, yeah, there's a lot of guys there, a lot of tight ends. One of them will probably hit. Hopefully you pick the right one. That's about it.
Yeah, I just think it's important to, if you have Ferguson or Hendershot on your taxi, like, don't drop them just yet, because the addition of Schumacher is no guarantee, right? That those other two are going to be useless. And that's pretty much all the news and nonsense I have.
Awesome. All right, I wanted to talk about something real quick here. Don't want to get into it too much, but I've had people reach out to me, like numerous people over different periods of time in general, reach out to me about this same thing. And it doesn't impact me too much in terms of like trade negotiations and stuff, but it does a lot of other people. So I put this out on Twitter, and I'm calling it the con offer, because let's be honest, like, a lot of times you are sending an offer to somebody trying to pull one over on them, right? Like, you're trying to just be like, oh, the market may not be thinking about it this way, this, that, and the other. Let me send this asset over for that asset plus this, right? And they're similar, and you're trying to just get a really big win.
Right.
We all do it. Let's be honest. Okay. But I put this out on Twitter. You got to be careful continually sending undervalued offers and not accepting fair counters ever, as you can build a reputation as a bad trade partner who simply wants to pull one over on his opponents at all times. I'm first to tell you to get as much value as possible. If you listen to this pod, you know that's true. But always a tipping point, and you don't want to wear the scarlet letter among your league mates, right? You don't want to wear that badge of dishonor among the league, because it will start. It's 100% something that people start noticing. So, I mean, like, I get shit in our leagues all the time from Ben, because like I'll send him offers all the time that I'm like just looking at, ADP, looking at the market, seeing stuff that's low, seeing if he's one of those people, and he's like, dude, send me a good offer. You know what I mean? He'll call me out in the league chats too. So obvious, but I 100% will accept certain offers that are fair that come my way, to make sure that I don't just get this stigma of me being just like impossible. You know what I mean? That I'm always only going to get a deal that is in my favor and largely in my favor. So you just got to be careful doing that. I know a lot of people who send me offers constantly that are just like wildly in their favor, and I'll send something that is somewhat reasonable, and it just goes nowhere. And it's just, so it's like you almost know, you're like, well, probably not going to get deals done with this person. You know what I mean? Because there's just no wiggle room. There's no working with each other. So you just got to be careful being so rigid like that, always trying to get that dub, because you'll make it almost impossible for yourself to make future trades and get anything done, any wins.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, I could think of almost 1% in every league, close to it. Not console wars and none of the DU leagues really. But I'll get a notification like so and so sent you an offer, and like I don't even want to look at it. Like I already know like this is the 30th one I've gotten in the last month, and they're all just been not even close. And like maybe they're just like, hey, this is a starting point. Let's get to talking. But like I don't really want to do all that. I want something that's gonna be like actually close. And if it's something that's close, I'm like, oh, well, this kind of makes sense. Then I'll counter or whatever. But if it just comes off as like they're hoping I click accept or something like that, it's like, I mean, honestly, there's this one in the league I'm in with Josh on Sleeper. There's a guy in there, and it just, I'll get the offer. I just reject. Like,
You're like, if I really want this, I'll go and send him something in a minute.
I've had dozens of offers, and not a single one has been even close to what I'd call a starting point. And so, yeah, like, without muting him or whatever, just like erasing him from like being able to contact me, like I want nothing to do with him. Like that's just like, this is crazy. And I mean, it even came up like in one of the waivers had run, and like, so and so is just gonna start sending offers for this guy they just picked up with the waivers for free, right? Like here he comes for your seconds, here he comes for your first. Like it's like every time. So yeah, you don't want to be that guy. Like
Dylan.
Oh, Dylan.
shout out to you, listener leagues.
But it gets noticed, right? You don't want to be that guy.
Absolutely, man. There's 100% people I get an offer from, and immediately I'm just like, oh boy, here we go. It's like you just know you're about to go down a rabbit hole of unhappiness for sure. So yeah, you just got to be careful doing that. Like I send offers for sure that are large, that are like wildly in my favor sometimes. And I'm never going to send one that's not in my favor. Why would I do that? Yeah. But if somebody sends something back that's fair, like I've 100% accepted offers that are in their favor, just because there's almost a point where it's not worth negotiating anymore and losing the deal. You just got to kind of bite the bullet. So, again, there's just, you kind of got, and there's this one guy who I trade with, and he's like, thanks for being such a good trade partner, man. And you're just like, that's going to be like, you come back around and you're going to have like a good trade, and eventually that goes your way. You know what I mean? That's and that it doesn't always work out that way, but it's really good to have those opportunities and not be the other guy. You don't want to be the other person. That's just like, wow, what a terrible trade partner. At least settle in the middle, man. Like you don't have to, don't be the bad guy. You don't have to be the villain.
How do you deal with that, Josh?
I send shitty trades.
So you're the guy. Awesome.
Yes. How do you deal with it when you get them?
No. You try working with the guy. If there's you want the players, you want to try to find the common ground on there. More than likely, one side's obviously going to be reached, so it's all about how you negotiate it.
I feel like Josh is much more willing to get one of those offers and go to the manager and be like, or send something back, even if it's like crazy the other way too. You're just going to be like, all right, and you're not even going to do it maliciously. You're just like, you want to trade? Let's see.
Right. Fuck it. If you're going to trade a player, you got to try to maximize what you're getting for him. You might as well overreach a little bit and see what happens.
I love it. He's like unbothered. I'm like, screw this guy. I'm never talking to him again. Josh is like, it's fine.
Fuck it.
That's cool.
What else are you going to do? It's fantasy.
Yeah, it's true.
That's funny.
All right. So actually, I think I need to give Josh access to this real quick.
Yeah, well, while you're doing that, that's fine. I actually wanted to say something anyway because I like to talk. But I heard, I was listening. I'm not like I think I was listening to Debbie Marketplace, which is a great pod. And I forgot who they had on. They had a guest on, but they were talking about wanting like C2C leagues to be switched to like completely best ball. And the reasoning, like one of the reasons, like for C2C, it makes a little more sense because the whole thing where like guys can be labeled out like minutes before the game or whatever. So it's like, it's kind of, tough in that situation, but there are mechanisms in place and in certain platforms that help with that aren't best ball. That said, one of the main reasons they were saying, and this goes to what I feel like a lot of people who are like, I really just want all my leagues best ball say, they're like, Saturday, I don't want to manage all these teams. And it's like, then why are you in all these leagues? Like, explain that to me. Yeah. Like, you join these leagues and they were managed leagues. Like when you join them, all of them, it's not like there was like a thought like, oh, maybe there'll be best ball one day. Like they were all managed leagues and you decided to join them. And now you're complaining because you have all this work isn't that why? Like the work is part of the fun. Like you don't like waivers. You don't like setting lineups. What do you like about fantasy? Just like inserting money, waiting to the end of the season and getting money back. Like I'm just perplexed at like this need to not do anything and still get points. Like I'm so confused by it. It just sounds so like lazy and overextended. And like, I don't get it. It just drives me absolutely. That reasoning drives me insane. If you like best ball for other reasons, like please sell me on those reasons. And there are valid reasons and best ball has its place. Love the tournament best balls, but holy crap. Like Dynasty best ball is just like taking away everything, all the reasons that you joined or wanted to join Dynasty in the first place, because it's more of a managerial experience. Crazy to me.
Whew. Damn.
Yeah. How do you really feel?
You need some shine for your soapbox?
I was listening to him say, I really just like don't want to do this on Saturday. And I'm like, well, then maybe you should leave all your leagues, dude. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, just watch football then. Like, it's all right. You can do that.
Billy, you need to ISO that speech. Just isolate the speech and release that.
Maybe that's how we get more Spotify listeners and just listeners in general. Just send out heat like that, right?
Yeah. Make sure you subscribe and listen to us on Spotify. We need those listens on Spotify.
I don't know if I'm brave enough. Just put that on Reddit and just get absolutely torched.
Hey, just make sure you link it to the Spotify.
Exactly. All for the clicks. All for the clicks.
All right. So this is something we've been trying to cook up for a while. Billy in his Excel sheet guru-ness, knowing how to use VLOOKUP, and I couldn't figure it out.
Like the easiest thing ever. So I'm not on you, but like I didn't do anything crazy here either.
But we put together. We did this last year. I think we did the year before, just trying to figure out where the redrafters are drafting players versus where Dynasty players are drafting players, ranking players. Just throwing it out there. I use this Fantasy Pros ADP or ranks or whatever, and so it's maybe not exactly ADP, but it's gonna be very, 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 very close. So we're gonna look there and try to find some, I think, some buys in Dynasty if you're contending, because typically what we'll see is older productive players being valued way, way, way lower in Dynasty versus in Redraft, and we all know that the Redraft guys, all they care about is scoring points. Right. And then on the other end, might be able to find some sells.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're also just focused on that single year production. You don't have to worry about 2-3 years down the road.
That's it.
Right.
And I think that's important if you're building a contender to try to get some of these guys that are going to cost you very little to acquire.
Definitely less than they typically would or other players, younger players would. I do want to say I do like that. So again, what we're doing here is we're comparing Dynasty ADP from Peter Howard's database, but it's DLF ADP, Dynasty ADP, Superflex ADP, which is good ADP. But then we're looking at Fantasy Pros rankings versus that, right? Which I think is actually better than any redraft ADP you could possibly get right now, because nobody's maybe if you got underdog ADP, it wouldn't be bad. Like but that's also not super accessible. That said, I do think that this is probably better than any typical redraft ADP you would get. That is not best ball. So it's probably good for this time of year. We could do this probably down the road and look at ADP, but it'd be very similar, like Uriah said.
Yeah, the best ball ADP, if you find it, it's pretty easy to look up if you're on Underdog or whatever. But you'll see a lot of like those field stretching. You'll see a lot of wide receivers getting taken a little bit higher than they probably normally would in redraft because people are going for those stacks, stuff like that.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, here at the list, we'll just start with some of the biggest differences between Dynasty and redraft. And yeah, so let's start here. Big one that actually will matter is like DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins in redraft is going as wide receiver 18, Dynasty wide receiver 39, which makes sense. DeAndre, that's a difference of 21 positional players. There's 21 other wide receivers being taken in Dynasty versus redraft. And I just think, with all the hype around Hopkins leaving, whatever, he's not going to be that expensive to acquire, and he's going to land on a team, and he's going to be the main target earner on that team, wherever he happens to land. We saw it in Arizona once he came back from suspension. He immediately was, producing pretty well. And I think that there's a lot of owners out there who would probably be willing to move off of DeAndre, and just based on the redraft folks' faith in him and confidence in him to score points, I think he's one of those guys that we should be looking at in Dynasty to add to our rosters if we're contending.
What do you think it would cost? Like, obviously, it's going to be hard to buy. Like, sorry to ask the question and then jump on it, but it's just going to be hard to get him before he lands, and when he lands, the price is going to go up. So how do you pay enough right now to get him before he lands is the question.
Well, I don't think you're going to try to do a straight up for a pick. He seems like the type of player you want to have in like a two for two type of deal, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're getting a running back and a wide receiver, and maybe you're getting a younger running back, giving away an older running back for the older wide receiver, and giving away like a younger wide receiver, so like a year two player, like a Elijah Moore or something like that thrown in there. If you're going to go straight up picks and you think you're contending, I think a second probably gets it done.
Yeah,
I was thinking like a second and a third probably. I think people are going to hold out for a little more value.
I
can see that.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think, if you're just looking ahead, you're going to have to pay a first when he lands. Like, if you want him at that point, or 2 seconds, like some kind of value that's going to be closer to a late first. So, yeah, do with that what you will. But just kind of thinking about it as we're talking it through. Okay. Calvin Ridley, 36, wide receiver 36 in Dynasty, 16 in redraft. That's a pretty significant difference. It seems like, as much as we haven't seen of him, redraft folks have some faith that he's gonna score some points this year.
Yeah, honestly, just based on age and production and what he's done in Dynasty, 36 seems. It's not like a whole lot more than I thought, but I thought he'd be a little closer to just 30. Maybe I'm splitting hairs here, but I think this could mean that he's still a Dynasty buy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he definitely is. Yeah, he's wide receiver. Yeah, and if you just look at the ADPs, yeah, I'm looking at Bulletproof just to kind of confirm. Same thing, wide receiver 32, 7th round. Yeah, I like him a lot this year. I don't know. I just like him a lot in general. I think he doesn't have as much tread on the tires. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those guys who looks a little bit older, and I think people are scared off because of the age. And I don't know. Just everything I see from him, from that team, seems like he's going to be the guy. So I like that a lot, and I kind of agree with the redraft folks on this one. And I think that there's more Dynasty value there than we're giving it credit for. I think he has more years left than we're giving it credit for. So
I think so too. What about Adam Thielen? Adam Thielen's sitting here with 20 spots in between redraft and Dynasty. Is he toast? Or is he possibly the wide receiver one on that team for this year?
I mean, I think he'll be borderline wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I think he has probably 1 year production left. So if your team is built for contention, I can see you running him out there this season.
And you can get him for like peanuts, right?
Yeah.
Dirt cheap. Dirt cheap.
Yeah, I mean,
If
a
he's
third
not
would get
on
it done all day, right?
Yeah, if he's not on a contender, a third easily gets that done. Easily. And like I'm not like I mean, if you like Bryce Young and you don't like Adam Thielen, then you just think that he's completely lost it and he's not healthy. It's hard for me to like just make that entire leap. I feel like there's probably more value there than the dynasty community is giving him credit for. So I'm probably somewhere in between these two, but there's definitely some value there for contenders who need that just like extra depth. A third's not going to cost you anything to kind of just see. So makes sense.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, I like this one. This one it just makes no sense to me. Similar to Ridley, but I understand, I guess, the age part. But Amari Cooper, wide receiver 38, Dynasty 19 in redraft, and just he's got to be somewhere in the middle of that. He should not be 38. Like that's crazy. Amari Cooper, just the absolute lead wide receiver for the Browns, and gets another year of development working with Deshaun Watson in the offseason. 28 going on 29. I think he's also got a couple more years left than we may give him credit for, even though he's had those injury concerns. Last year, I think he put together a pretty solid year, even though the home and away splits were pretty terrible. I think like he wasn't, you could see that he still had it for sure. He hasn't lost a step. So I don't get this one for the dynasty side, and I think he's a great buy, personally.
Do you think it's more of a knock on Cooper or more of a knock on Watson?
Cooper. Well, actually, no. I guess it's Watson. It has to be Watson, right? Because Cooper hasn't really shown, like, he just hasn't shown that he can't do it. Right. He hasn't shown that he can't produce. Like, he hasn't been elite by any means, but he's been productive and he's been useful and good on the NFL football field. I think Deshaun Watson, honestly, last year was rusty. You can't have watched that and not think that.
Okay. That's a good question. Like, has Amari Cooper ever finished like outside of wide receiver 2 contingent, like wide receiver 24 or worse?
I don't know off the top of my head. I could probably check it while we're talking, but I
just
doubt
seems a little silly.
Yeah,
that's why looking at this is kind of interesting because again, like we're looking at redraft players and like the points they're trying to get for just this year, and really kind of highlighting some guys that the dynasty community just does not want on their team. And it's stark if you go to the bottom list, the opposite spectrum, which we don't have to talk about because it doesn't really matter to us that much anymore. But the players that are like separated by huge amounts in redraft versus dynasty, but being valued higher in dynasty than redraft, they're all rookies and they're second year players. You have your Marvin Mims, your Wandells, Jaden Reed, Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool, I think he might be a buy. Jameson Williams, Tajay Spears, Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers. You kind of get the point.
Allen Robinson.
Oh, come on.
I feel like I'm not looking at this right. Was Amari Cooper really a top 10 wide receiver last year somehow?
He was on one. Yeah, he was on one of my second place teams, so I think he did pretty well.
Something I found really.
Yeah, he was. I mean, probably not points per game. Like he was actually pretty low in points per game. I'm looking at it, so he was outside the top 10 in terms of that, but. Total points scored, like last year he was. I mean, it was kind of a down year for the top some of the top wide receivers injuries, but no, I mean, yeah. I mean, he finished outside of it in 2021. In 2020, he was inside the top 15. 2022 inside the top 15 in points per game. So yeah, I mean, he's still very productive. Let's be honest.
One thing I found super interesting were the ones that lined up the same.
Yeah, I know.
Most of them were star players, but there were a couple on there I was very shocked at, like Hunter Henry.
Did they line up exactly the same?
Yeah, 33.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's
wild. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, David Montgomery's the same. You kind of thought that maybe Dynasty would be a little bit lower on him right now. But yeah, let's talk about a few more. So we have Tyler Lockett, another guy that just like perennially undervalued and easy to acquire in Dynasty. They have him as wide receiver 45. The redrafters have a wide receiver 30. He's absolutely another guy that you can go out there and get for probably just a third round pick, late second or something like that. And he's going to go ahead and put up, wide receiver 2 numbers on your team all year long. Keenan Allen, another one. Redraft has him at wide receiver 20 and Dynasty 40. That's probably because he's old, right? Like, but he just always goes out there and produces. Is Keenan Allen going to finish it outside of wide receiver 40 this year? Absolutely not. There's no chance. There's no chance in the world that he's going to be wide receiver 40 or worse, unless he gets hurt. You know, now, and I know we're trying to talk about dynasty value here, but really what we're trying to talk about more than anything is your contending teams and trying to acquire points and looking at where you could just get these guys like super cheap.
And also, like, I think I talked about I know I talked about this last week, where there's this misconception that you have to have all young wide receivers, all old wide receivers. Like, I have contending teams that have a ton of like youth on them, but then have Keenan Allen and maybe a Calvin Ridley, you know what I mean, as two guys that kind of supplement. And that's not going to kill your roster. Like, you can have Keenan Allen on your team and also not, like, you know, lose all the value in the world and have a dead roster next year. Like, that's not, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't have to work that way. It can work that way. It doesn't have to work that way. So yeah, I think like it kind of like we overstate it, and then we make these rosters that are like, that end up being, you know, really, really far one way or the other. And I don't really think it needs to be that way. And it's not really beneficial, I think, overall, to be so far just so polarized, you know, just in such polar opposite directions for, you know, no real reason.
There's better ways to get it done than just by like, oh, I'm rebuilding, I need to have like young team, or I'm contending, like I could only have like old guys. Like, there's a good way to like keep contending, to never be a rebuild, but like just churn that roster. And in order to do that and stay competitive, you need to have a couple of these guys on your team, and they don't really cost you anything. A couple of running backs are like Samaje Perine, we've talked about. I think he's gonna have a bigger year than we think, at least for the first start of the year, assuming one of those free agent running backs doesn't go there. That'll be a fun episode when Zeke has a spot, Leonard Fournette has a spot, Dalvin Cook has a spot, and like all these other running backs that we thought were going to be something or not all of a sudden. That'll be fun to talk about. But yeah, the redraft community has P. Ryan as RB31 and Dynasty is RB47. So I think he's another guy you go out there, get a third, and I bet he puts you up RB1, RB2 numbers for, you know, the better half of the season.
Yep. All right, here's like we just have to go through this top end of these guys, because like this is where I think the big differences. These are really big differences in my opinion. So I'm just going to go through a couple of them. But Cooper Kupp, 15 Dynasty, 4 in redraft. Austin Eckler, 11 in Dynasty, 2 in redraft. 17 for Devonta Adams, 8 in redraft. Derrick Henry, 18, 9 in redraft. Nick Chubb, 14 Dynasty, 6 in redraft. Like, these are very productive assets and are going to be extremely productive. And the redraft community has them in the top 10 of positional players, right? And we have these guys outside of the top 10. Like, something's off there. Like, we're obviously it's better to get out a year early than a year too late, for sure. But we're definitely selling a lot of production when we're moving these guys. So you got to kind of know. It just depends on your roster, but you can get these guys for really good value. I mean, Cooper Kupp is going for a first and a second right now. That's super cheap. It's ridiculous. Like, Austin Eckler, you could probably get for a single first next year with something little added on it. Adams for sure, something like a single first. Yeah. Derrick Henry, I mean, who knows? Nick Chubb's probably a little harder, but just based on what we're looking at here, not that much, but definitely a little more difficult than some.
Yeah, I mean, this is really good episode for contending teams. Like, these are all really good targets. Brandon Cook's the same thing. Robert Woods, I don't know about all that. I think he's actually done. But
yeah, that's crazy that they have him ranked.
I mean,
like that.
He's still wide receiver 84, so that's almost undrafted, right? But
what about Stephon Diggs? 11 in Dynasty, 5 in redraft.
Well, I think 11 might be a little. Well, it's wide receiver 11, not 11th overall. I think that's pretty. I like to see what it looks like next year. with Diggs getting a little bit older. But
Yeah, I still
I think
like
it's pretty
Diggs.
fair.
I still like Diggs. There's a lot of news about Diggs being disgruntled over there, but I'm pretty sure it's going to get right. And he's still the target leader there without question.
Good. And then our boy Jake Ferguson is on here. Tight end 20. Yeah, I mean that's basically it. Just really wanted to highlight some of those names where there's a huge discrepancy between what the redraft folks think versus what the dynasty folks think. And again, I know there's dynasty value baked into all that, age and everything else. But if you're contending, trying to score points, these are some of the guys you want to get on your team, and you can do it for really, really cheap. Anybody else you want to talk about on the list?
Hold on, let me handle this dog real quick. Look, see if there's some sells.
Just see if there's any other big disparity.
Well, honestly, I think some of these rookies, man, just being they're so valued at the dynasty community right now. If you're trying to contend and you're trying to get some of these older players, you're always going to find teams that are like youth thirsty. And so if you have like a Javonte Williams and you're not so sure what's going on with him, you could easily move Javonte Williams for one of these, two of these wide receivers and get something back, like pick back next year, probably at a first. You could probably get like a first and, Keenan Allen for a guy like Javonte.
Yeah.
What else?
So Javonte. I'm just looking at Javonte real quick. That's interesting. So I'm actually going down to where there's like Jameson Williams, right? Where he's 31 in Dynasty and 50 in Redraft. Like, that to me, like, he's the ultimate kind of sell, man. Like, we're already, a year into his career. The redraft community is like, look, he's probably not going to score that many points this year again. That's not going to be great for his stock in Dynasty. That kind of screams sell to me. So guys like that are some of the guys I'm looking at really far down the list here, who have kind of already been in the league a little bit. And
Wan'Dale Robinson, Chase Claypool, Jameson Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all the guys like Terrace Marshall Jr. I mean, but he's still being valued at like wide receiver 81 in Dynasty and 95 in redraft. But still, I mean, these are guys that like there are people out there that still have faith in those. So if they're going to be valued higher in Dynasty like that than redraft, then I think there's a deal to be made there.
Look at this. Jahan Dotson, 27 in Dynasty, 40 in redraft this year. Wow, we're not expecting a lot from him.
No, I don't know if I agree with that. But then again, like who saw him the ball? I mean, he had a really good rookie season, surprisingly at least. 2 touchdowns to start his very first game. But he's a guy you could definitely sell. He's got a really good price tag in Dynasty, and you can move for one of these older wide receivers like a DeAndre Hopkins. Like, I bet you can move off Jahan Dotson and get Hopkins either straight up or even get something back. And if I'm contending, I absolutely want Hopkins on my team over Jahan Dotson all day. Same Keenan Allen, all those guys that we talked about earlier. Jahan Dotson, one of those guys. You could easily move Dotson and get a guy who's actually going to produce more this year. He just happens to be 6 years older, 7 years older.
For almost every one of those guys we talked at the top, you may need to add something for 1 or 2 of them, but probably not for most of them. You could probably get straight up. Like, talking about like Tyler Lockett, Amari Cooper, Ridley, Keenan. I mean, they might try to work you over for Hopkins with the hype right now. Cooper Kupp, you're going to have to pay up, maybe a second or something on top of that, but maybe a first. No, probably a second on top of that, and you could probably get him. But yeah, man, like there's a lot of deals to be had there for contending teams. And you may be able to get plus back if you add Dotson in a third, Dotson in a second. You may be able to get something extra back, or Dotson in a third probably gets you back Ridley and maybe a higher third or a late second or something. I don't know. Those are the kind of things I'd be looking at.
Love it. All right, let's move on.
We have
Did you want to hit your slide or
Is that for something else?
Oh, yeah, sure. I will actually hit that real quick. I did want to. We talked about it last week. I'm going to be really quick on this. Actually, probably not. I'll probably talk way too long. But I'm just throwing this. I'm just.
You have
throwing this on
30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. So we talked about this last week about the value over replacement player. I ended up breaking it down by points per or by essentially value over replacement per game. So I did it on a per game basis to get it, I think, a little bit more granular, a little bit more accurate. And then I was just what the whole idea was looking at this, and anybody wants to go and see like a more in-depth review of it. I did a video for the DFF YouTube channel that went through this for a good few minutes, or probably about 10 minutes. But I was trying to figure out if like the middle rounds or the middle-ish rounds, like the 13 to 36 range for both wide receiver and running back, if there was a really big difference there in terms of a value over the replacement players. So it's really just looking at the production mostly, and again, more on a year-to-year basis type thing. But what you can look at it, you can see the 5-year average, the 3-year average. You can see that there's just like it's pretty negligible. There's just not a very big difference on a per game basis between the two positions. And actually, if you look at it from 2018, where there was like a really big difference at the top, like a 4-point variance between, running back and wide receiver in the top 8, 3 points for the top 12. And you see that same thing kind of in 2019. You see it kind of come closer together between the two positions in 2020. Wide receiver overtook it in 2021 at the top. And then it was almost the same, nearly the same throughout. And then 2022 kind of going back into the running back's favor, but you could still see it's much more even than it used to be. So just the wide receivers are scoring more points than they used to, bottom line. The positions are coming closer together in general. Running back holds a pretty significant advantage still at the top, especially in the top 12. But after that, I mean, take your pick of the litter. Like, unless your roster construction is really, really holding you tight to a position, you don't need to worry about position as much. If you can just fill those flex spots out with tons of wide receivers in this range, and it's really not negligible. It's really negligible going into the like 37 through 56, and then it becomes there's no value over replacement after that. So it's all the same. It really is at this point. There used to be a bigger difference, much more overstated now. That's all.
I love that.
Nice.
All right, let's talk about some trades and non-trades. Looks like we have a couple here.
All right, so both mine.
Of course.
Time of year. First one, I traded away a 2025 first for Charbonnet, Dalton Schultz, and a 2024 second.
Smash.
You got the 25 first, or you traded away the first?
I traded the first.
You traded the 25 first and a second for Charbonnet.
No, he got the second back.
Oh, you traded a first for a second. Yeah, that's a great trade.
Yeah, this was in a DU league.
Nice, I like that.
Oh.
I did not realize that's what that was. Yeah, I think that was a good trade for you. That is Dylan again.
Yeah,
trying to you are not letting him. You are letting him get off the hook. You are letting him stack up first again.
I mean, I'm just going to.
Is he ever going to compete? Is he ever going to compete, or is he just going to make picks for the rest of time?
One of these days, he's just going to own the league. You'll see.
He is.
To me, this deal made perfect sense. I mean, Charbonnet is going late first, early second.
Yeah.
Right now, combine that with the second and getting Schultz on top of that, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think that's a steal. I wish I got like an offer similar to that. Different players, obviously, but yeah, I would think that's a really cheap price for, possibly second in targets there in Houston with Schultz, and then Charbonnet, who I still think is probably better than Ken Walker. We'll see what happens, but yeah, I like that trade a lot. I think that's an immediate smash.
Yeah. And then the next one I haven't accepted yet. I got offered and I've been thinking on it. So I trade away Freiermuth and Zach Gentry. Get back Darren Waller, John Mechie, Shoemaker, and a 24 third.
So Freiermuth basically for Waller, Mechie, and Shoemaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? I like Freiermuth a lot, but you're getting back two tight ends. One, Waller, who's going to produce pretty good this year, and then Mechie, held back last year. He had like a disease or something, right? He had to go through chemo or
leukemia. Yeah,
that's right. Okay, I'm glad I didn't just like pull it out of my ass.
Yeah. No, you're
So
right.
hopefully, because you don't want to ever say something like that and it's not true. Yeah, I like this trade for you too. Good job.
I kind of like the Fairmouth side.
Okay.
I don't hate the other side necessarily, and if you're like really going for the win now, I mean maybe that works out because Waller, maybe he's just like a much better tight end this year. But I don't know. I don't really believe too much that Mechie can come back and be a difference maker, and the rest of it's kind of whatever to me. So I prefer the younger asset who's been pretty good.
It's console war, so I don't know what to fucking do.
Yeah, I hear that. I'd probably keep Fairmouth, to be honest with you. I don't think the other side helps you as much as you may think. So if you haven't clicked accept, don't.
Who are you gonna
Okay,
listen
so
to?
I'm just saying. So yeah, pick it. I mean, again, Waller's gonna fall off a cliff after a year, so just like think about
Yes, he
that.
is. Yeah.
He is. So like unless you are going to win with him, which in console wars, I'm in your division, you're not going to. So like, you may just want to hold Fairmouth.
What's this next trade?
Okay, so this is just something I've been contemplating. I want to know your thoughts on. So what do you think? Barkley and George Pickens for Gibbs in the 24 first. Say it's late. Say it's a late first. What do you think?
I mean, I'd probably gamble. Actually, I'd for sure take the Gibbs and 24 first side.
Yeah. Because I don't. I don't know what Pickens is gonna do. I don't know. I honestly, you couldn't tell me. Am I in or out on him? I don't know. I really don't know. So that you're putting a piece in there where I'm just like, I don't even know what I think about Pickens. Like, he's not a guy I'm trying to trade for. He's not a guy I really have. So I don't really have like a value for him. I assume you're trying to get Gibbs. Yeah, I think you might have a hard time with that.
Assuming makes an ass out of you and me. You're right.
Yeah.
Haven't you heard?
I just, I've been knowing you a little while.
Yeah. No, obviously. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to churn before I'm trying to get out a year early and still maintain some of the production. And I think that's kind of what that does. And I don't need the wide receiver. Like, he's not going to start in the lineup. So I figure it's like a free first almost in a way.
I think he'll probably get more value from Barkley once he signs his extension, because that way he has stability there versus the unknown.
Yeah, that's true. Right now, he's definitely probably a little bit lower value.
Yeah.
So maybe wait until that happens.
Barkley away right now is going to be kind of rough. Like, people are going to be skittish.
Yeah.
And if they feel anything like I do about Pickens, then this is going to be rejected right away.
Yeah, which they probably do.
You never know, right? I've seen crazier stuff happen on Twitter, so.
Yeah. Trying to think. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, probably got to wait till he signs to get the most value out of him. So I'll probably hold off. But yeah, I was when I was sending it, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be good or not. And obviously, it's like Barkley's so good and Gibbs is just an unknown still. So it's that part of it is a struggle a bit. But yeah, okay, we'll revisit that in a week or two.
Cool. Anything else you want to talk about?
I think that's
tonight.
Yeah, tons. Wait, did we ever? Sorry, wait, hold on, Josh.
No, take that back. Don't thank you. You're not welcome.
Hey, I like the throwback Patriots logo on your cap, by the way. I like that.
Thank you. Yeah,
they should stick with that.
I'm a big fan. They should. I'm trying to find the trade, that Mike Evans trade we made. Uriah in our Devi league. I think that was a good one. Hold on. This is actually a good one. Okay. What was it? Wait, was this year? Sorry.
Back in 1994.
All right, I got it.
You got it. I just pulled it up too, but go ahead.
We gave up Mike Evans, 23, pick 305, and pick 405, Devi. And we got back this year's 212, this year's 412, and next year's second. And who do we pick with the 212?
Branson Robinson. In a supplemental Devy draft at 212, we selected Branson Robinson, Georgia running back, absolute stud. Check any
Unit.
rankings. The dude is up there in the top 12, top 10 in a lot of the rankings. So I don't know how he was sitting there. So I thought, just trying to show other examples of like ways to get out of Mike Evans. It's not the easiest thing to do. I've been trying very hard. I probably offered Mike Evans for every single pick up until that point in some form or fashion. And just the fact that there was the way this league works, there's just limited Devy picks per draft. So the fact that there was any left towards the end of the second and we were able to get in there while moving on from Mike Evans, getting off of that asset, getting a Devy asset who is highly ranked, highly coveted, that is going to be much more fluid, much more liquid rather of an asset, just felt great. And they sent that offer with the added 24 second. And while the league is more depleted each year, I think the way that I've gotten a hold of the Devy landscape definitely can take advantage of that. So getting 2 seconds for Mike Evans in this league with the Devys that are typically available, very, very happy about it. So thought that was a really good trade.
Yeah. Cool.
That's all. All right, you can take us out of here now. I won't stop.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Dynasty Underdog. Make sure you check us out on Spotify. Follow us on Twitter at Dynasty Underdog, at Uriah Dawkins, at Willie Beeman DFF, and at Josh M. Goldberg 92. Make sure you subscribe, like, review, YouTube, Spotify, everywhere we're found. On that note, peace out, everyone.
Peace out. Join the Discord.
Discord, yes. Spotify, Discord. Do it.
Have a good night,
guys.
Do
it now. Do it.
Peace out, fam.